I know that My Hero Academia isn't really on the air right now, and I thought the new movie was honestly just okay. But I was still itching to hop back into the world and mixing it up with good old Kirby. Last time, we saw what copy abilities Kirby would get if he swallowed each of the students from Class 1A. Naturally, I wanted to follow that up with Class 1B. So, let's get into it in 3, 2, 1... First up is Yosetsu Awase. His quirk is Weld. Weld allows for Awase to fuse things together. I had to reach outside of the box with this one, so when copying Awase, Kirby would get Cutter and Bomb from Kirby 64. Kirby would throw a shuriken that would get stuck in its enemies' bodies before exploding. And honestly, this was probably the closest thing to welding I could think of. Sen Kaibara. Kaibara has the quirk Gyrate, which allows him to spin any part of his body at super speed. When inhaling Kaibara, Kirby will get the Tornado copy ability, since this ability also makes Kirby spin around super fast. Though I can see Kirby inherit Stone and Needle also from Kirby 64. Togaru Kamakiri. Hero quirk, Razor Sharp. This quirk allows Kamakiri to produce blades from different parts of his body. Even though I can see Needle working, instead, I decided to have Kirby inherit the Sword ability when inhaling Kamakiri. Sometimes you just gotta keep things simple. Shihai Kuroiro. Kuroiro's quirk goes by 2 different names, dark or black, which allows Kuroiro to merge into anything that is dark either by its color or by the obstruction of light, aka shadows. This quirk was super difficult to match a specific Kirby copy ability to, but in the end I went with Ghost. Ghost allows Kirby to possess enemies kinda like how Kuroiro took over Dark Shadow during his fight with Tokoyami. Now for Class 1B's class representative, Itsuka Kendo. Kendo's quirk is Big Fist, which, well, it makes her fists big. However, Kendo is able to make the best of this quirk when combining it with her martial arts abilities. So when Kirby copies Kendo, he will get the Fighter ability. The Fighter ability and Knuckle Joe also have a rapid punch attack like Kendo, making it the perfect fit. Moving on to Yui Kodai. Her quirk is Size, which allows her to change the size of objects that she's touching. When inhaling Kodai, Kirby will get the Mini ability, which allows Kirby to shrink down in size to get into tight spaces, at the expense of losing his other abilities. Next, we have Kinoko Komori. Komori's quirk is Mushroom. This quirk allows her to grow mushrooms over a wide area, especially when the area is more humid. Komori also has the ability to grow mushrooms in people's throats, which is kinda OP. But anyway, this one is another pretty big stretch. When Kirby copies Komori, he will get the Poison ability, just because of the existence of poisonous mushrooms in the world. Ibara Shiozaki. Quirk, Vines. Shiozaki's hair is actually made up of vines that she can grow and control to a great extent. When copying Shiozaki, Kirby will get the other plant-like ability, Leaf. However, I can also see Spider or Whip work just because both of them have grappling abilities also. Moving on to Jurota Shishida, aka not Beast from X-Men. However, his quirk is literally called Beast, which gives him super strength, durability, and agility. He's also able to transform his body between his human form and his beast form at will. Inhaling Shishida will give Kirby Animal. This ability covers Kirby in fur like Shishida, but also allows Kirby to claw, drill, and maul his enemies. Nirengeki Shoda. Shoda's quirk is Twin Impact, which allows Shoda to create a second impact at the same place as the first one at any time. I really liked Shoda's Vegeta visor, so I wanted Kirby's copy ability to reflect that as well. I ultimately went with the Copy ability, which allows Kirby to don a visor and scans his enemies in front of him to either copy their ability or just deal damage. Up next is Pony Tsunotori. This American transfer student's quirk is Horn Cannon. Horn Cannon lets Pony shoot and control multiple horns from her head. These horns can be used as an offensive tool, but can also be a form of transportation. Also, you gotta love the way that Pony talks.
Don't give us another like that!
I can see Kirby getting one of his signature copy abilities, Cutter. Cutter also shoots out sharp blades that are shaped pretty closely to Pony's horns. Kosei Tsuburaba. Kosei's quirk is Solid Air. This quirk allows him to harden air from his breath in forms like platforms, walls, and barriers. For Kirby powers, I went with Mirror. Even though Mirror has some moves focused on illusions, it also has some moves that are focused on barriers and reflection, which makes it the perfect fit for Kosei's quirk. Now for the best name in the series, Tetsutetsu Tetsutetsu. His quirk is Metal, which allows for him to cover his body in metal, giving him extra durability and strength. The run-on joke in the series is that he's basically Kirishima 2.0. As for Kirby abilities, luckily there's already a copy ability called Metal. Metal lets Kirby cover his body in metal, making him super heavy and durable, but at the cost of him being less nimble in the air. Now for Setsuna Tokage, the first of 2 students from Class 1B to get in via recommendations. Her quirk is Lizard Tail Splitter, which allows her to split her body into multiple parts to be controlled at her own will. Regarding Kirby powers, this one was pretty difficult to emulate, so the closest I got to copying this power is Bob and Needle from Kirby 64. Kirby turns into a Gordo and has the ability to shoot each of his spikes away from his main body, which is pretty similar to how Tokage's quirk works. Manga Fukidashi. His quirk is Comic. Comic allows Fukidashi to materialize words into the world just by speaking them. Also, if he speaks in onomatopoeias, the words would actually affect the environment of the world. Overuse, though, can cause him to get a sore throat. This power is insane, and was again super difficult to pinpoint a Kirby copy ability. But eventually, I went with Magic. Magic has Kirby pull out multiple things from his hat, which can represent the versatility of this specific quirk. Now onto the other student recommended into UA, Juzo Honenuki. Juzo's quirk is Softening, which allows him to soften materials that he touches into a mud-like consistency. He's also able to swim through these liquefied materials. Before we jump into the Kirby copy powers though, let me quickly talk about our next classmate, Kojiro Bondo. Kojiro's quirk is Semidyne, which has him shooting a cement-like substance from his face. Both of these quirks are centered around liquid-like substances, so if Kirby were to inhale either of these students, he would get the Water copy ability. Water is a super versatile copy ability, and honestly was one of my favorite powers to use in Return to Dreamland. Hate to love him or love to hate him, it's Neito Monoma. Monoma's quirk is Copy, which allows him to copy a few quirks for a short period of time. He's basically Kirby in human form. So even though there's a literal copy ability called Copy in the Kirby franchise, I thought that for Monoma, it would be more interesting if he basically would give Kirby no power. Monoma's the biggest troll in the My Hero series, so what's more trolly than giving Kirby nothing? Reiko Yanagi. Reiko's quirk is Poltergeist. Poltergeist is a quirk that allows Reiko to control objects that equal up to the weight of a standard human. This ability is basically telekinesis, which is why the perfect Kirby copy power would be ESP. This copy ability functions fairly similarly to Reiko's quirk and has that purplish glow to match. Last but not least, we have Hiryu Rin. This Chinese exchange student's quirk is Scales, which covers his body in scales for defense, but can also be used as projectile-like weapons, kinda like a Gatling gun. As for copy abilities, this is yet another stretch, but I decided to go with Wing Kirby. With this copy ability, Kirby covers himself with wings, but is also able to use the feathers as projectiles, which to me is a great one-to-one comparison to Rin's quirk. So, that was all the copy abilities that Class 1B would give to Kirby. If you're curious about Class 1A, go ahead and click this video right here. Remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and thank you all so much for tuning in. Later!